Hi everyone, welcome to another Tween Trends. I'm Bethany, I'm a children's librarian, and with me is...
Hannah Lee, what are we talking about today, Bethany?
Today we are talking about tween graphic novels, Hannah. So I'm excited to start off with
Ooh.
a pretty new one. So I'll get right to it. So the first one I have is called Bounce Back by Masako Rocks. So the first question is, do you like sports, particularly basketball? And do you like cats? If you answered yes to both or either of those things, I know I love cats. This graphic novel is definitely for you. It's done in a manga style, and it's all about a tween named Liliko who has a pretty good life in Japan, feeling pretty good about what her life looks like until her parents announce that they're moving to America. And her world is turned upside down. So with the help of her spirit guardian cat named Nico and her new friends like anime-loving Nala and Henry, who's obsessed with samurai culture, Liliko adjusts to life in a new country, at a new school, and on a new basketball team. So that's Bounce Back by Masako Rocks. If you want some similar titles too, it's like Crossover, the graphic novel adaptation of Kwame Alexander's book, or Dragon Hoops. So those are some good options too.
So would you call that a graphic novel or would you call it manga?
That's a really good question. I know that traditionally manga is read sort of from what we would consider the back cover to what we would consider the front cover. And it's usually, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's usually in black and white, if that's right. And this one is in color. So I would definitely refer to it as a graphic novel that's done in a manga style because it's got that sort of artwork style.
Yeah, I had a fifth grader ask me a fun question of like, what is manga and why is it different? And I was like, well, manga is just a Japanese graphic novel. And then there's the Korean graphic novels and the Chinese graphic novels. Those are like called manhwa, but with different spellings. So I'm going to share some manga that we have that is available online. So you'll be able to see really quickly that Haikyuu is also a basketball story. This one is technically manga. You don't know you'll be reading it from right to left or left to right because it's in the ebook. So this is the Sora app, and it's accessible to every student in Belmont. They don't have to have their library card handy to borrow a book. They just need their Gmail account. So this is kind of the perfect kind thing that they can grab onto and go. There are definitely holds on some of these because they're popular. And they're so popular that we don't actually have them in the library right now. So this is a great option for you to just kind of make sure that you get it on your list. And what's next, Bethany?
That's a great question. All right, so I have another sort of contemporary style one, but this one is a retelling. So have you ever heard of Little Women, the classic book by Louisa May Alcott? Well, this graphic novel is a retelling of it. I love retellings of classic novels, and it switches the story from being set in 1860s Concord, Massachusetts to being in present day Brooklyn instead. So that's a pretty cool adjustment. So the four March sisters, the book's named after. So we got the oldest, Meg, strong-willed Joe, shy Beth, and Amy, who's the youngest with the biggest personality. If you know the book, you know it well. In this version are trying to figure out how to navigate school, working to help their family while their father is overseas, and all other sorts of road bumps that life brings along their way. And so they find power in their own individuality and find strengths together in their blended family. So this is a great graphic novel retelling of a great classic, particularly close to us. Other great retellings that I would think of, we have one that just came in, that's The Secret Garden of 81st Street, which is a retelling of Secret Garden. And then there's also, so that's more of a contemporary setting. And then we also have Anne of Green Gables as a graphic novel, still a historical fiction, historical setting, all great options for these classic tales.
And I'm going to go hop over to Sora and share the fun historical options that we have graphic novels. So we have graphic retellings of historical fiction because the fiction is historical. We also have graphic retellings of stories that are written in the modern day and throwing back with research to history. So this is Turtle in Paradise. Turtle in Paradise was a fiction novel written by Jennifer L. Holm that's been adapted into a graphic novel. And this is about a young girl named Turtle who in 1935 moves to the Florida Keys and experiences a whole new world there. So this is just a really heartwarming story, found family, everything that you kind of mentioned that's in the retelling of the Little Women. And I just kind of think it's a really great comparison. And then we have Whitebird. Whitebird is a historical fiction novel, but with an interesting connection because it's actually the story of the grandmother, fictional grandmother of one of the fictional characters in the book Wonder by R.J. Palacio. So this is set in World War II. The main character is Jewish, and it just goes through this incredibly captivating story about the nature of heroism and things that are just really important to people as they're discovering how to be heroes of their own. And then I'm excited to see what you have on the list next. And I am super psyched. I can't wait.
I'm so excited to talk about this next one because I really loved reading it. And I do really love fantasy, so I'm a little bit biased. But this epic adventure that I have is called Fantastic Tales of Nothing. It's by Alejandra Green and Franny Rodriguez. And it is set in a fantastical world that's actually called Nothing, but don't worry, plenty happens. So it's all about a young gambler named Nathan, who's human, who finds himself in trouble one day, and suddenly a burst of magic lands him in the middle of the haunted boreal forest. He's luckily saved by a mysterious fae named Haven, though Nathan quickly realizes that the two don't even speak the same language. And in fact, what's really cool is that the different languages are in the book. So the unlikely duo is then chased by two Vulcan mercenaries, so they have magic as well. And Nathan starts to figure out that magic is the magic that landed him in the forest is actually coming from him. And the unlikely band of heroes has to save the whole world from war and a dark evil, nothing big. But if you're into fantasy, you'll find a lot to love about this graphic novel. I certainly did. And there's a sequel that should be coming out within the next year or so. So I'm so excited to find out more about Nothing.
And that is so exciting. So I do have a couple of comps to that one that are on Sora again. So I'll just show you really quickly. Natsume's Book of Friends by Yuki Midorikawa. And this is a story that kind of falls into the fantasy, but it's about a young boy who just is a very gentle soul. And so he's given this book that has a lot of creatures that have been bound to it, but he doesn't want to bind them. He doesn't think that's very nice. So what he'll do is he'll just kind of make friends with all of them. So this is just a really sweet book that I would recommend. It's manga. It's available on the Sora app. And then we also have Things That Save the World. We've got Animorphs, the throwback to the 1990s popular book by Catherine Applegate and Michael Grant. So this is full color graphic novel. I recommended it to someone who likes Venom, but was not ready for Venom. So this is really fun adventures, save the world. Another Save the World is Last the Kids on Earth, which you can almost consider an actual just chapter book because it has all of the different snippets and reactions that would be in a graphic novel, but it ties it in with a lot of text. So if you're that person who just kind of wants to ease your kids a little bit further towards the chapter books and a little bit further away from the illustrated graphic novels, this is probably the medium place for you. This is a good compromise on meeting graphic novels with chapter books. And I believe the next one that you have might be about dragons.
It is, yes. I couldn't resist. I had to put two fantasy in here, but this fantasy is a little bit different. So this fantasy is set in rather than a fantastic world, it's set in Hong Kong. So it's all about our main character, Grace, who leads a pretty normal life in the city until one day on a field trip, a mysterious woman gifts Grace a dragon egg. And Grace begins to wonder if all of the mythical stories she loved when she was a kid just might be real. Especially when that egg hatches. So it's up to Grace and her friends to protect the dragon and to protect everyone from an evil force that threatens the entire city. So I'm really excited for this one. It's The Awakening Storm. It's The City of Dragons, #1. It's by Jamal Yogi.
And for those of you who want to go online to find more books, that one I love dragons, as you can tell. We have a couple of fun options, one of which is Gen Pet, this is written by Damien and Alex Fuentes. So this is a book that's about a young boy who ends up getting this genetically modified pet to help him navigate some past difficulties that his parents may have had with former gangsters. So it's like an adventure through New York City with a genetically modified super monster. Kind of similar, right? Kind of similar. And then if you're looking for more of the sweet side of things, we're on Hoopla. Hoopla is one of those e-resources that we have at the library where you can actually access them instantly. There's never a hold on them at all. You do need your library card and an email address to make sure that you get access to it. But this one, it will never say hold there. It'll always say borrow. This is Tea Dragon Society by K.O. Neal, and it's very much in the fantasy realm with a lot of different types of dragons and just kind of they're not just any type of dragon, they're tea dragons. So I feel like Bethany would have a lot to say about this one as well.
Oh, I love this one.
And then the last one that I have is Wind. This is kind of a new fantasy series that is just breaking out. And this is the typical story of a boy who doesn't really fit into his community, ending up finding that there's a heroic task ahead of him. So this is definitely fantasy ones that I would keep an eye on because they kind of follow in that thread of fans of things like Amulet. And what's next? I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited you talked about my favorite Tea Dragon Society. I could talk all day about that series. And I do really love fantasy graphic novels. And I also really love that graphic novels also can be memoirs. So there's a lot of really great graphic memoirs out there. So the next one that I have is the graphic memoir called When Stars Scattered. So it's by Victoria Jameson and also Omar Mohammed. You might recognize Victoria Jameson. She did Roller Girl. And Omar Mohammed, it's really cool that he co-authored this because it's actually based on his real life story. So this work follows the experience of Omar and his brother Hassan, who live in a refugee camp in Kenya, and life is really tough in the camp. So Omar wants to take an opportunity he gets to attend school that would mean leaving behind Hassan. So Omar has to make some really tough choices. So this graphic memoir is a poignant and hopeful look at the day-to-day experiences of refugees, and it's really grounded in that real life experience, which I think makes it really special. Other really phenomenal graphic memoirs are examples such as Guts by Raina Tellemeier. That's one of my favorites about her experience with anxiety. And then there's also Big Apple Diaries. That's a great one about growing up in the wake of 9/11 in New York City. So those would be some great graphic memoir options as well.
And I have one that's similar to a graphic memoir, but it does follow a fictional character. So this is Pashmina by Nidhi Chanani. Pashmina is the story of a young Desi girl who's trying to answer the questions of why did her family leave India? And it has a lot of connections to like, oh, this is what she imagines India to be like because she's never visited before. But when she finally does, she finds that connection and family and just a discovery awaiting her. So this is definitely one of those ones that kind of falls in the eye-opening and at the same time heartwarming narratives and graphic novels.
That's a great suggestion too. I love that one. So my last one today is a little mix of everything. You might consider it sort of a magical realism style. It's got some realistic stuff, some not. It's a wonderful story. So it's called This Was Our Pact by Ryan Andrews. And this book is set on the night of the annual Autumn Festival, when legend says that lanterns that the town floats down the river each year turn into stars in the Milky Way. So Ben and his classmates want to find out if the legend is really real. And so they set off to find out, and they make a pact. The pact involves two things: no one goes home and no one looks back. Except Ben and Nathaniel, a kid Ben doesn't really think fits in, are the only ones who don't break the pact. And they end up venturing further than anyone has before and find out lots along the way. Oh, and there's a talking bear. So this one's really great. I love the colors of it. I love the story. Another sort of similar combination of real and fantasy that is phenomenal as well is The Legend of Auntie Poe. This one is set in the 1800s in a Sierra Nevada logging camp, and it is all about 13-year-old May, who loves to tell stories, particularly of Auntie Poe, who could give Paul Bunyan a run for his money for sure. And her experiences in the logging camp, especially with the passing of the Chinese Exclusion Act and what life looks like for her and the immigrant communities in the United States at that time. So this is a really fascinating combination of history and family and fable and all sorts of wonderful things, and I highly recommend it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm just going to share two more titles and then we'll be on our way. So I have another manga written by Daisuke Igarashi. This is Children of the Sea. It's a series that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but it is a really similar narrative to This Was Our Pact, and where someone thinks that she sees a ghost in the water of an aquarium. And then she discovers there are two mysterious boys, and they kind of end up exploring the mystery of the worldwide disappearance of ocean's fish, which will kind of take them in an unexpected adventure. So it's definitely one of those gather together everybody and explore a new world, and find out that it's not exactly the same one you thought you lived in. And then just as a last one, I wanted to throw a nod to the Teen Titans series. This one is written by Cami Garcia and Gabriel Piccolo. This is just, I love what they're doing with this series, because Teen Titans, you could go, oh yes, they're superheroes. It doesn't really fall into sci-fi or fantasy because they're just superheroes, right? But I do think that there's a lot of things in these ones that have kind of turned them into graphic novels instead of just wham pow comics. So I would definitely encourage your tweens to explore the narratives that are being told of the individuals. This one is Beast Boy, who's my favorite Teen Titan, but it just kind of explores the value of friendship and things like that you wouldn't expect to see in a DC comic. That is all I have for you today. And do we have any closing words about graphic novels?
I just think that graphic novels are great. And like you were saying, I think one really big hallmark of tween graphic novels is that idea of like the narrative and the story that's happening and all of the growth that happens for the characters. It's just really great to see across all of these books.
And I agree. I also agree that I think everything that people have said about graphic novels has probably already been said about graphic novels. So I think we'll just leave you there and hope your kids enjoy these ones.
Awesome. Thanks for listening.
Bye.